Well, good morning. My name is Marlene Solano, and I'm the kindergarten through 8th grade curriculum coordinator for the district. And this is a presentation that was given to the Board of Education Curriculum Council at a committee meeting a few weeks ago. And I've been asked to do that presentation for you this morning so that we can share that with families. The presentation today is on social-emotional learning and what we are doing with social-emotional learning K through 12. So our two district focus areas are complex thinking and social-emotional learning. And today's presentation will talk to you more about what's happening across our district in regards to social-emotional learning. So let's start with what is social-emotional learning? So here is a definition. And while you can read it, I want to just highlight for you a couple of the key elements. We want kids and adults to understand and manage their emotions. We want them to be able to set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others. We want them to establish and maintain positive relationships and make responsible decisions. And that's a part of what we do each and every day. But we have a specific focus on it that we are thinking about as we make plans and as we educate our kids. In Cheshire, we look at this inverted triangle, or this triangle. And we have 3 tiers of support for social-emotional learning. And the first one is what we call Tier 1. And these are programs and activities that are for all students. Every student in our district gets these programs and activities. Tier 2 is when we have kids who need a little bit more support with these things. They might not be getting it when all the other children get it. And so that becomes a more targeted and focused area. We give them additional time, and the intensity of that support may increase a little bit. And then we have Tier 3 with our students who are really struggling with any of those areas of social-emotional learning that I showed you in the first slide. And so we make those interventions more customized, and that's what we call Tier 3. So you can see most of our students are here. We have some fewer students here, and at the top we're really talking about a small percentage of students who need our more customized supports. So we'll start at the elementary level, and let's talk about all of the things that are at that Tier 1 that all of our students receive. Well, first off, we are teaching them through the responsive classroom philosophy. And that's something that our district has been involved in for many years. About 7 years ago, we began working in earnest with a consultant to strengthen our supports in that area. And those are, responsive classroom is a philosophy that we think that teaches that the social-emotional learning needs are as important as the academic needs of our students. And that if you don't meet their social-emotional needs, you won't be able to get to their academic needs. It's about building a community of learners in your classroom. It's about connecting the individuals within the classroom and those individuals being connected with the teacher. It also goes into creating classroom rules. It talks about creating hopes and dreams for the learner, the student as a learner. Our parents also get to create hopes and dreams for their students for the year. And teachers, you'll often see in some of our faculty rooms, have up in their teachers' rooms or their faculty rooms, hopes and dreams that they have for the year for themselves and for their students. So this is a collaborative effort where we're doing morning meetings, closing circles. At the end of the day, we're fostering connections. We're teaching kids how to listen to each other, how to have empathy for one another. And that's something that's infused throughout our day. SEL isn't an add-on where we need an extra 45 minutes or an extra 20 minutes within our day to teach those skills. They are embedded throughout. And the responsive classroom philosophy helps us to address those needs. We also have the school counseling curriculum. I'm not sure how many people know this, but Cheshire has always been known for an exceptional school counseling program. About 20-something years ago, they had created a curriculum that was actually sanctioned and kind of got a seal of approval, if you will, from the Yale Child Study Center. And in those classroom lessons, school counselors are going into the classrooms and teaching a number of lessons to students about decision making, about peer pressure, about how to handle bullying, how to handle mean-spirited behavior, how to make good decisions, And so those are being, those lessons are being taught at the developmental stages of different students K through 8. We have buddy classes. Buddy classes exist at many of the elementary schools, and that's where older students are paired up with younger students. So because we have kindergarten through 6th grade students, we want to make a familiarity there. We want students to recognize kids in their class, kids on their bus who are older than them, who might not be in their classes, but we provide activities for them to do that help them to get to know one another. One example is reading. That buddy classes will pair up and read together. An older student will read to a younger student or vice versa as they're practicing their reading skills. Another is that on field day, some of those classes will be paired up so they get to have some fun outside together. So those are just a couple of examples. Sometimes they'll do an art or craft project around a particular celebration at a school to really foster those relationships across grade levels. The elementary schools also have student leadership groups, sometimes called peer advocates. Others have student council, where we're giving students a voice so that they have some decision making in what our schools take on. For example, our student councils will often come up with community service projects that they think are important to them. And so some of the schools will collect hats and mittens around Veterans Day and bring those to the Veterans Hospital. Others are collecting animal toys and food items to bring to local animal shelters. So those are really organically being brought to the principals from the students to say, this is something we believe in and we want to be a part of. Again, getting back to that empathy that we talked about in the first slide, which is a part of social-emotional learning. Our peer advocates are helping our new students in some cases, where you have students who receive some training in leadership and are able to welcome new kids to the building or give tours when we have new families coming to visit. We talked a little bit about community service, but some of those other projects are collecting money for the food pantry, for the homeless. One school recently did a jump rope for heart, where they jumped rope and had people sponsor them to raise money for the American Heart Association. All of our elementary schools have all school and town meetings, again, where we're fostering that sense of community and belongingness and bringing all of the kids in a building, all of the staff together for certain events. And we are really trying to make sure that that's a student-led meeting so that they're bringing their ideas and the things about school that they want to share, whether they be in art or music or social studies, whether it's a piece of writing that they want to share with one another to celebrate what they're learning in school. We have lots of team building field trips. Most schools are either going to Camp Sloper, where we're doing those team building activities to mix the kids up who haven't been in classes together before. Some schools are having Empower from Middletown come out and do those kinds of team building activities on their own campus, on their own school grounds. And then Field Day is a wonderful community building activity where we're not only getting our students and all of the grade levels together, but we are also bringing in parents and siblings and the staff. And if you've been, it's a lot of fun. There is anonymous reporting in each of our buildings, and it looks a little bit different depending on the culture of the school. Most of the school counselors have some type of a mailbox, either in the hallway or in an area of the building where kids can write an anonymous note to let them know that they saw something that they didn't think was right, or that they think that a classmate of theirs needs some help with the situation. Many teachers also have an area in their room where a note can be left, or they could ask for a conference with a teacher that's private so that they don't have to share information, and it could be on an anonymous type of basis. Darcy School recently, over the past couple of years, has been working on Circle of Security. They recently were recognized at a Board of Education meeting for the work that they've done. Circle of Security is a philosophy or a program where they look at social-emotional learning through an attachment lens, making sure that every student has a secure person in their life to which they are attached and can help them and provide safety. And so the teachers are working with the families to create that circle for the children. that's some wonderful work that's happening at Darcy with Ann Donnery. We also have quite a few PTA-sponsored events. These are just a few of the things that we've been doing over the years. Last year, a couple of our schools had Sam Drazen come to talk to groups of students. Sam is a wonderful man who happens to have the same type of facial deformity that the main character Augie has in the book Wonder. And he came and spoke to the students about what it's like to feel different. And the way that he explained it was so wonderful because it taught the children that that's a universal feeling of feeling different or feeling left out. It's something that we all experience at some time in our life, and that it's a normal part of growing up. And from his lens, he described what that was like and really normalized that for kids. And if you've ever read the book Wonder, which most of our students have, they had that to call upon and to connect with someone who was actually in front of them who had the same type of issue as the main character. The Look for the Good project is a project that we have been connected to for many years. It's run by, I believe, the founder, Ann Kibitsky, who worked at Doolittle School. This is a picture of the students at Doolittle, and you can see this little icon here. Originally, when they worked on this project, it was featured on Connecticut Style, which is shown in the afternoon after one of the news programs. And it was featured because of the wonderful work that was being done. And that originated at Doolittle School. And some of the work, I'm told, that is in her book actually references Doolittle. So that's something that's been going on for a while and has been, in different years, has been included in different schools, in different elementary schools and even at Dodd. Another couple of programs that we have, and again, these are examples of programs that we do across the district. We might have one year, another year. We might find something different to weave in the following year. A lot of these depend on schedules, but these are samples of the kinds of things that we have done in the past and that we continue to do. So Looking in Theater is a wonderful program. It's through one of the CREC schools in Hartford, and they send their students down as part of an improv group, and they meet with 6th graders, and they will enact skits having to do with peer pressure and racism and fitting in and making hard decisions. And they remain in character so that the students, our 6th graders, can ask them questions. And it's always fascinating to see our 6th graders say, but that's not right. You shouldn't treat people that way. And so it enables kids to talk about these difficult life lessons within a safe environment with the help of their teachers, and programs like this bring those discussions forward. So this was actually, Looking in Theater has actually been featured in Connecticut Magazine. And then the Anti-Defamation League's Step Up program has also been involved in Cheshire Public Schools, where groups from the ADL will come in and do activities with our students to get them talking again about some of these same issues, about having empathy, about what it's like to feel left out, and dealing with different cultural groups, and really taking a different look at race. So I talked about that triangle of Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So this, at the elementary level, this slide depicts what happens at the elementary level for Tier 2 for those kids who might have been through those programs but struggle with managing their emotions or making good decisions. And so the counselors, the school counselors, will run groups. And this is just a sampling of some of the groups that they run. Social skills, emotional self-control, teaching strategies and coping skills around all of these topics. The counselors also run groups for new students. So when a new student comes to town, they're paired up with other students and they're asked to invite someone to lunch. And those groups often look like, well, what was it like at your old school? How is it different from your new school? Because there are pros and cons to each, and kids can relate to that just as adults can. We also run, and this last one is a pretty common group that is run probably at all of the schools, and that is divorce, separation, and restructured families. Families are constantly changing, and families are going through different things at different times, and it's nice to have kids be able to talk with one another to say, yeah, that happened to me too, and I got through it, and things were okay. And it seems to be a popular one, most often that parents will call us and ask us for some support with. And so that's kind of an ongoing group that we run. The counselors, as well as other teachers and oftentimes the principal, will often conduct conflict resolution and mediation with our students. And sometimes that can be really simple and happen in the classroom. If you're in an elementary classroom, you might see a mediation station in the back of the room. And we've got students now who will, on their own, go and find someone that they're having an issue with and go and stand over by the mediation station and walk through the steps. Sometimes they need a teacher to help them do that, but now we're seeing that we've gotten kids familiar enough with this that they will take it upon themselves to tell someone how they feel and find a resolution. Again, some kids can do that on their own. Sometimes they need help with that, and that's what we're here for. In Tier 2, we are always consulting with parents. So if there's an issue that a child is having, we want to make sure the parents know about it. So this is in Tier 2, and we're certainly going to consult with families. Doesn't mean we have to wait until Tier 2, but that's certainly something that we can provide. Also, Ruler, you may have heard about. We've had some training on that in the district as well. And Ruler is a program that was developed by Mark Brackett out of Yale University. And many schools are getting on board with Ruler. And Ruler is another type of social-emotional learning tool that helps students to manage their emotions. In some of the classrooms, you may have seen a very colorful 4-quadrant grid, and that helps students to identify how they're feeling. And they might be able to move a magnet onto the part of the quadrant that identifies how they're feeling. So a teacher can get a feel for how are the kids in the class doing today. You know, we just had something happen, how's everyone doing, and can kind of touch base with them. If you're in the green, that might be the happy zone. If you're in the red, you might be feeling angry or upset. And so we're trying to teach kids how to identify their emotions and giving teachers the tools to know how to interact with them when they might be having an issue on that day. Ruler also has some similarities to Responsive Classroom in that there's a classroom charter where kids agree to certain rules and what they're going to do. In Tier 2, we're really using those specific strategies in with small groups of kids to reinforce some of those skills. So in Tier 3, this is the top part of the triangle. These are the Tier 3 interventions that we have. So rather than meeting in a small group, the counselor might meet with a student individually to help them with some individual concerns that they're having. We also have crisis intervention at this level. So we might need to call DCF for support to help the child. Another tool that we have is to call 211, the mobile crisis unit. So most of our mental health staff have the ability to do assessments, safety assessments with students to make sure that they're not going to harm themselves or others, or to work with students on de-escalation strategies. When that reaches a point where it's disruptive in the building, sometimes a counselor might call 211 in order to get a second opinion, in order to have, you know, some immediate support brought to the school. And so that's when we would call 211. We also work with families to get them support at home, and that's a group called ICAPS, which stands for Intensive In-Home Child and Adolescent Psychiatric Services. And we've worked with families who are really struggling at home, even if we might not see the same behaviors in school, to help them fill out the paperwork and help them navigate the process so that they can get these in-home supports. Again, we're consulting with parents at this level more frequently. We're also working with outside agencies. We partner really well with Michelle Piccirillo and her team over at Youth Services. We work with private therapists as well. If families need some support at home or need additional counseling services outside of the school, our counselors will usually recommend at least 3 alternatives in a private setting. One of those is usually on a sliding scale, might be Youth Services, and then we'll provide recommendations for other outside supports as well through private therapy. We also work a lot with hospitals and with treatment centers such as Clifford Beers or Yale New Haven Hospital. So our staff is on the phone and communicating and sharing information with parent permission with these outside groups in order that we can have a continuation of care both in school and out of school. And then, like I said a little bit earlier, our mental health team can do risk assessments for self-harm. And that's our level of Tier 3 support. So let's talk about Dodd Middle School. You'll see that there are some commonalities among the tiers as we look through. So at Dodd, we have a 6th to 7th grade transition program. Many parents have attended the open houses that we've had. Kids will go in the spring, 6th graders, to have a tour of Dodd. They'll get to ask questions, meet teachers. Our counselors meet with the counselors there to talk about any placement considerations that are important for Dodd Middle School to know about. Dodd has an advisory program where smaller groups of students are paired with an adult in the building, and there are activities that are set up for them to do, again, to create and foster that sense of community and that connection with the adults and the children in the building. Dodd has done mindfulness lessons with their students to help them deal with stress and anxiety of everyday types of events. Their student advocates are great, especially if you've been there on one of the first days of school. They are helping kids find their way to classes and really a support and a friendly face for our incoming 7th graders. The school counselors at Dodd will meet with every 7th grader in what's called a transition meeting. So just to touch base with them and ask how things are going. Are you able to open your locker? How are the courses that you're taking? Do you need any extra help? What troubles might you be having? What clubs might you want to get involved in? So every 7th grader will get a transition meeting with their counselor. Clubs and activities are plentiful at Dodd. There are a long list. I'm highlighting 2 of them here because I think they speak very well to social-emotional learning, and that is the Best Buddies program, where students are working with other students who might have a special need. And then the Humanitarian Club. I'm told that this year the Humanitarian Club is working on a fundraiser to support Syrian refugees. So if that doesn't describe empathy for others, I'm not sure what does. But I understand they're very excited about the work they're doing this year. Dodd Middle School also has a student council. The next thing is the Student Parent Book Club. That's run by Kristen Shanley, where she selects a book for the students and the parents to read. And what a great opportunity to read a book alongside your child and then be able to have a facilitated discussion about it for topics that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to bring up out of the blue. So I know that that's a popular offering at Dodd. There are also intramural sports. If you haven't seen any of the therapy animals, they're a lot of fun. There are some dogs, 2, I believe. I know Maggie, I believe it's Maggie, is one of them, because every time I have on black pants and I visit Dodd, she's always sure to come over and say hello to me. There's also a bunny rabbit, and I think they have a guinea pig. So kids who are stressed out or are going through a hard day, having some time with one of the therapy animals is always a favorite. And then, of course, PTA-sponsored events. We're so lucky in this town to have such a strong PTA and have such great collaboration with them to bring us some of these programs. So one of the big programs at Dodd is Dodd Day. You might have seen it or heard about it or have attended. And this is where a few years ago, well, I think they've done it for a number of years, This picture is from a few years ago when they had a lot of food trucks, they had a lot of games, a lot of activities, and it was a nice way for incoming 7th graders to get acclimated to Dodd, to meet some of the teachers, to meet some of the students, and to participate in some of these events. So they talk here about what is Dodd all about, and how did this come to be. So it was a nice collaboration again between the students, the staff, and the parents. Dodd participates in Kindness Counts activities. Up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the Look for the Good project, again with Ann Kibitsky, that we talked about a little bit earlier, that sort of had originated at Doolittle but has been in many of our schools. And then each year, the PTA partners with Scott Driscoll, who does a wonderful presentation on internet safety. And that presentation is done for the students during the day, and then another one is done in the evening for parents. So this really helps the whole Dodd community to understand better these tools that are in front of us now and how to navigate them. Tier 2 looks very similar at Dodd Middle School as it does at the elementary school. We're doing conflict resolution and mediations. There's group counseling offered for small groups of students who need it on social skills, emotional self-control, again, that peer pressure and decision making, that divorce, separation, and restructured families group. They also have a homework club and peer tutoring, and they provide consultation with parents. Tier 3, again, very similar. Individual counseling, more direct, targeted counseling for students in need. The counselors and the mental health staff there provide risk assessment. They'll also often do a home visit if that is needed. They also work with DCF and have, when they need to, we'll call the Mobile Crisis Unit. They also work and interact with ICAPS, consultation with parents, and again with outside agencies. So now we move on to the high school. So as you can see, there are a number of things that are done, and we'll highlight quite a few of them. The high school has their advisory program, which happens with, again, small groups of students being paired up with a caring adult in the building to create and foster that sense of community. They're peer health educators. I was lucky enough to meet with them last week, and they came to our administrative meeting to talk a little bit to our elementary principals about what it is that they do. And they're very excited to come down and work with our elementary students to talk about, again, these same topics: peer pressure, decision making, how to handle mean behavior. So that's a great group that has a lot of ideas. The Link crew is another group of students who's helping to foster those connections within the community. They have a connections program. They have done mindfulness lessons. It started in their 9th grade, and the responses that we received from the students were that this was great and really helped them around test anxiety and, again, the stresses of adolescence. They have a peer advocate program as well, and a student council. There is now a healthy balance course over at Cheshire High School that is run by a school counselor and a member of the mental health staff. The healthy balance class is a school counselor and mental health staff running a course to help students navigate high school and also deal with things of organizational nature, like executive function skills. So planning and organizing and how you manage your time. The school counseling staff also offers a variety of activities from the time the students come in 9th grade through 12th grade. Again, the clubs and activities are too many to mention, but I highlight Best Buddies, which has been an award-winning program there, which is really one of their signature programs, I think, at the high school. Cheshire Chat is a new program that was instituted this year by the administrators there, where students have the opportunity to meet with one of the administrators and really tell them from a student's perspective how things are going at the high school and things they would like to see things they would like to see or need help with, and then things that they really like and are going well that they want to continue. We have B1 Day, which is a school-wide program for 9th through 12th graders that the staff also participate in. It brings everyone together to talk about common experiences that they've had in order to see those similarities and send the message that we can all be one together and that we're here to support each other. And then, of course, we have our Parent-Teacher Association sponsored events, for which, again, there are quite a few, but we'll highlight some of them. We have the all-night grad party, which I think everyone knows about. That's a huge success, and that team works on tirelessly throughout the year and seems to do one amazing night after another every year. That's to keep students safe on graduation night and make sure that they have a place to go and have fun, so that they're not out doing things that we don't want them to be doing. This other program is called Hidden in Plain Sight, and that was a collaboration between Chespercott and Cheshire High School and the PTSA. And this, you can see in the picture that it's a photograph of a room, a child's bedroom. And it's teaching parents to go in there and to look for things that kids shouldn't have, like vaping paraphernalia or drug-related paraphernalia, or things related to drinking or vaping, all of the kind of dangerous things that are out there, because we don't always know what to look for, and it's hidden in plain sight because of the way these tools look now. So that was a well-received program. The high school has also brought in speakers such as Dr. Pody, who talked about the teen brain and risk-taking, and these were student and parent presentations. We also had a presentation called HEAT, Heroin Education Action Team, that spoke about heroin and opioid awareness, and it was a forum for both parents and teachers. High school Tier 2, again, looks similar to the elementary and middle school, but it would be at the developmental level of high school students. So again, we're offering a series of groups: stress management, new student groups. This year, currently, there are a couple of groups going on, one for girls that is about social skills and stress management, another for boys, one on decision making, and another on social skills. They have a group called VIP, and that is focused on validating individual preferences and is really dealing with kids who are having some issues with gender identity. And then One Day at a Time, or ODAT, which is supporting students who have addiction issues. The high school has what's called a core team that meets on a regular basis to support teachers who have a student in their class and to support the students in that class who might be dealing with behavioral issues or is having trouble in the areas of social-emotional learning and are struggling. They also have the homework club and peer tutoring, and we continue to consult with parents. Tier 3 really looks very much the same as our Tier 3 at the other levels. We're going to provide more individual and targeted support through counseling. We work with DCF 211 ICAPS among some of the groups that we're working with for crisis intervention. Consultation with parents, again, that becomes increased. There might be more meetings. Consultation with outside agencies, and again, the staff there is trained to do risk assessments as well. So I've told you what our elementary, middle school, and high school are doing to support social-emotional learning. Now let's take a look at this from a district perspective. What kinds of things has the district done to support all of these efforts? And those really start with all of the professional development that has been made available to all of the people who work in our district, whether that be administrators, teachers, coaches, IAs, teacher assistants, those lunch and playground aides. So let's start with responsive classroom. We've received responsive classroom training at the elementary level. The administrative team attended a conference specifically focused on responsive classroom leadership. We have trained our teachers in responsive classroom strategies. They have received training through workshops, but also with effective classroom strategies to support that individually with coaching in our buildings. This year, the principals decided to utilize the half-day professional development days to support the teachers. So the teachers all took what was called a responsive classroom assessment, which was a survey, and self-reported what they needed, and the professional development was individualized to the needs of those teachers. So we broke down into probably about 14 different groups to provide targeted professional development based on what the teachers needed as a result of that survey. There's also been training in ruler. The previous year, people were able to select whether they wanted training in ruler or mindfulness. Our administrative team attended a conference on ruler. Many of our staff have done so as well, and our mental health staff has had some additional training in that. As I mentioned earlier, Ann Donnery over at Darcy School has written grants to get funding to support training in Circle of Security. This year, our middle school and high school team a group of teachers at the middle and high school participated in restorative practices training. So they had training with Joe Brummer, who was a consultant who worked with all of these groups. Our administrative team also spent some time in our administrative retreat learning about restorative practices. Tracy Hussey, our Pupil Personnel Services Director, has been working with our staff on mental health first aid training and what is called QPR in an effort to make sure that all of our staff, whether they're coaches, we're working on training our bus drivers, making sure our IAs, our instructional assistants, our teacher assistants have experience and have had training with this. So we've trained some mental health professionals in our district to provide that training to others. And thanks to Tracy, who also got a grant to be able to support some of that work. We have safe school climate committees at each of our elementary schools that meet on a regular basis, no less than 3 or 4 times a year. And a parent will sit on those committees as well to really look at our climate surveys, which are done biennially, and to look at and to get feedback from that committee on what things are working well to creating a safe school climate and what things do we need to look at, or what programs do we need to bring in or partner with parent-teacher associations to address a particular need in our building. I mentioned the safe school climate surveys. We also have a tool called Gaggle. Gaggle is a tool that we pay for that looks at the content in students' Google documents and in email, in Cheshire Public Schools documents, in Cheshire Public Schools email, to make sure that if a student is expressing a desire to hurt themselves or to hurt someone else, this company Gaggle is made aware of that and can directly contact the school. If it looks as if it's an immediate threat, it is directed to the Cheshire Police Department immediately. If it is questionable content that the student is expressing in our Google platform, then that comes to the building administrator and is handled at that point. But we feel that this is a good safety measure to put in place to ensure that, again, that we try and keep our kids safe. The last thing I'll mention is the town-wide health and wellness fair that our PE and health teachers have put on. That's really quite a wonderful program and extends out into our community to invite our community members in, again, promoting safe and healthy lifestyle as well as exercise, and is a nice partnership to see within our town. So I've given you a lot of information this morning, and I want to come back to where we started. We started with the definition of social-emotional learning, and we're going to end here in another slide with the idea of how does a safe school climate and social-emotional learning, how do those come together? So let's take a look at this definition. It says, a positive school climate is the product of a school's attention to fostering safety, promoting a supportive academic environment, disciplinary and physical environment, and encouraging and maintaining respectful, trusting, and caring relationships throughout the school community, no matter the setting. So we're talking about pre-K through high school. So all of these SEL strategies that we do at Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, our message here is that we want kids to learn the skills necessary so that everyone feels safe everyone feels supported and you're open, and that students are open for learning, because that's what we're here for. So we want to remove any barriers that there are to student success, and we use SEL to help get there. So now we go back to our original definition of social-emotional learning. If you think about the programs we talked about today, they help students to understand and manage emotions. That could be through counseling groups. At Tier 1, it's through programs like Responsive Classroom and Ruler and our K-12 school counseling program. We want students to set and achieve positive goals. They're doing that in the classroom with their hopes and dreams when they walk in kindergarten, and they're doing it with the Healthy Balance course at the high school. We want them to feel and show empathy for others. We talked about the Best Buddies program. We talked about our peer advocates. We talked about those elementary kids who are coming with us, telling us what they want, how they want to help, how they want to make a difference in collecting hats and mittens for the veterans, or bringing in toys for the animal shelter. We want to establish and maintain positive relationships. You see that in advisory. You see that in the connections during morning meeting. So K through 12, we're really working hard to address these issues, and we want children to be able to make responsible decisions. I think everything we do is really set to address these concepts. So now we'll open it for any questions, but certainly if you have questions, we would encourage you to reach out to your building principal. You could certainly reach out to me or any one of us at central office or in the district. Thank you so much for listening.